The hum of the chronometer was a constant, unsettling presence in Elias Thorne's basement laboratory. It resonated through the concrete floor, breaking up through his worn leather boots and into the very bones of his skull. Rain lashed against the grimy window panes, mirroring the frantic rhythm of his heart. He hadn't slept properly in 3 days, fueled by lukewarm coffee and a desperation that threatened to consume him. The device dominating the room was his magnum opus, the Temporal Displacement Unit, or as he's privately nicknamed it, the Sparrow. A tangle of vacuum tubes, copper coils and precisely calibrated oscillators, it promised what countless scientists had only dared to dream of: a controlled, localized time travel. And tonight, after years of painstaking calculations and increasingly precarious experiments, he was ready for the first man test. He glanced at his assistant, Beatrice Finch, a young woman whose brilliance was matched only by her unwavering loyalty. Beatrice, with her spectacles perched precariously on her nose and a smudge of grease on her cheek, meticulously checked the readings on a nearby oscilloscope. "Temporal lock stable, Doctor Thorne," she announced, her voice barely audible above the chronometer's drone. "Energy matrix within acceptable parameters. All systems nominal." Elias nodded, forcing a shaky breath. "Initiate sequence." Beatrice's fingers danced across the control panel. A series of clicks and whirs echoed through the lab as the Sparrow began its pre-displacement cycle. The air crackled with an almost visible energy. A shimmering distortion appeared within the central containment field, a hazy window onto somewhere rails. "Destination 1888 London," Elias announced, reciting the coordinates he's programmed into the system. He's chosen that year deliberately, a year of fog, gaslight, and a chilling mystery, the Jack the Ripper murders. Not to interfere, of course. Simply to observe. A historical footnote, nothing more. He stepped into the containment field, feeling a peculiar sensation of weightlessness. "Commencing displacement," he declared, his voice echoing slightly. The world dissolved into a dizzying kaleidoscope of colors and shapes. For a brief, terrifying moment, Elias felt as though he were being pulled apart atom by atom. Then, just as suddenly, it stopped. He stumbled out of the containment field, blinking against a fog so thick it felt like a solid wall. The smell of coal smoke and damp earth filled his nostrils. Gas lamps cast an eerie glow on the cobblestone streets. The air hung heavy with a sense of Victorian gloom. "Displacement successful," Beatrice confirmed, her voice tinged with relief. "Temporal reading stable. You're in London, 1888, approximately Whitechapel district." Elias took a deep breath, the reality of his achievement sinking in. He's done it. He's actually travelled through time. But the thrill of discovery was quickly overshadowed by a sense of unease. The fog was denser than he's anticipated, almost suffocating, and there was a palpable tension in the air, a feeling of impending danger. "Stay close, Beatrice," he cautioned, adjusting his tweed overcoat. "Observe and record. No interaction." "Understood." Beatrice nodded, her eyes diving nervously around the dimly lit streets. They began to move deeper into the fog-shrouded district, their footsteps echoing eerily on the cobblestones. They didn't have long to observe before they encountered their first sign of trouble. A frantic woman, her face pale with terror, burst from a nearby doorway, screaming about a man with a knife. Before Elias could react, she collapsed onto the pavement, clutching her throat. "A robbery," Beatrice whispered, her hand instinctively reaching for a small, concealed ray pistol she strapped to her wrist. "Stay back," Elias hissed. "We are observers only. Interference is unacceptable." As they watched, a shadowy figure emerged from the fog, disappearing as quickly as he appeared. He left no trace, save for the screaming woman and the chilling silence that followed. Suddenly, Elias felt a prickling sensation on the back of his neck. He turned slowly, his gaze sweeping across the fog-shrouded street. Standing in the shadows, partially obscured by the swirling mist, was a man, a tall, gaunt figure with piercing eyes and a sinister smile. He seemed to materialize from the very fabric of the fog. "Lost, gentlemen?" the man asked, his voice a low, menacing drawl. Elias felt a surge of adrenaline. Something about this man felt wrong. He couldn't place it, but his instincts screamed danger. "We're just passing through," Elias replied, trying to keep his voice steady. The man chuckled, a dry, humorless sound. "This district isn't safe for casual passers-by, especially not those with unusual attire." He gestured towards Elias's technologically advanced clothing with a mocking glance. "We appreciate the warning," Elias said, signaling Beatrice to back away. "We're leaving now." As they turned to leave, the man's hand darted out, grabbing Elias's arm with surprising strength. "Not so fast," he whispered, his eyes glinting in the gaslight. "I have a proposition for you, Dr. Thorne. a proposition you can't refuse. Elias struggled to free himself, but the man's grip was like iron. He glanced at Beatrice, who was frantically trying to raise her ray pistol, but before she could fire, the man released his hold, disappearing back into the fog as silently as he's appeared. "Who was that?" Beatrice demanded, her voice trembling. Elias shook his head, his mind reeling. "I don't know," he said, "but I have a feeling we've just made a very dangerous enemy." They hurried back to their temporal displacement point, the encounter leaving them shaken and unnerved. As they prepared to return to their own time, Elias noticed something odd about their surroundings. The fog seemed to be thickening, swirling around them with an unnatural intensity, and the air was filled with a strange metallic hum. "Temporal readings are fluctuating wildly," Beatrice reported, her voice filled with alarm. "Something's interfering with the displacement field." Suddenly, a figure emerged from the fog, blocking their path. It was the man from earlier, his sinister smile even more pronounced than before. "Going somewhere, gentlemen?" he asked, his voice dripping with menace. "I believe we need to have a little chat." Behind him, more figures materialized from the fog, closing in on them. They were all dressed in dark, Victorian clothing, but there was something distinctly unnatural about them. Their eyes glowed with an eerie, green light, and their movements were jerky and mechanical. Elias realized with a chilling certainty that they weren't dealing with ordinary criminals. They were something far more sinister, something otherworldly. "Temporal distortion at critical levels," Beatrice screamed. "We have to leave now." Elias nodded grimly. They were trapped, but he wasn't going to surrender without a fight. He knew that whatever was happening in 1888 London wasn't just a historical footnote. It was a threat to their own time, and he was determined to uncover the truth, no matter the cost. As the figures closed in, Elias activated a hidden device on his wrist, a miniature temporal disruptor. It would create a momentary window of opportunity, just long enough for them to escape. But he knew that their encounter with the mysterious figure in 1888 London was far from over. The device emitted a pulse of energy, momentarily scattering the figures and creating a chaotic swirl of fog. Elias grabbed Beatrice's arm and plunged into the temporal displacement field, hoping against hope that they could make it back to their own time before it was too late. The last thing he saw before the world dissolved was the sinister smile of the man in the fog, and the chilling realization that they had just stumbled upon a secret that was best left buried. The chronometer's hum faded as they vanished, leaving behind only the lingering scent of coal smoke, and the unsettling feeling that they were being watched.